attendance for tonight?
No.
I think Jack said he was away.
Yeah, Jack said he was.
Jack's away.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Do we have any public comments or announcements from the commission?
Nope.
Any public comments or announcements from the public? Yes, if you can just use that mic right there.
All right.
You
Should I
can-
sit or
it-
stand?
Sit or stand, whatever's easiest.
I'll sit.
Okay, you may want, just slide that over here.
All right. My name is Kendra Shea Naraki. I am the Environmental Health and Safety Manager for PJ Keating on Reservoir Road. And I am here today to offer a donation to the Conservation Commission on behalf of Keating. As you may know, we are negotiating with Mass DEP on a fine. A portion of that can go towards a supplemental environmental project, or a SEP. And we had proposed a SEP that would involve placing a beaver deceiver or a similar device in the wetlands on our property, basically to help improve the water flow, prevent any flooding or other future issues due to the dams backing up the water both on Reservoir Road and on the corner of Route 70 and Leominster Shirley Road. And we had hoped that this type of project would also benefit the public by preventing any damage to public roadways. Unfortunately, Mass DEP rejected it because it was on our property, and they didn't want the SEP to benefit us at all. And it's fine. However, they indicated we could donate the SEP funds to a local entity, such as the Conservation Commission, for use in projects that could improve the wetlands and waterways in town, or anything, equipment purchases or anything you might need it for. So therefore, if the commission accepts, PJ Keating would like to donate $22,000 to you.
Okay, great. So that's in lieu of a fine that you're currently
Yes.
negotiating?
Yeah, with
Okay.
DEP, yeah.
And I know you had contacted Matt about it, and he is in discussions with the town administrator
Okay.
to see exactly how to go about doing that. So it's just monetary, it's no services or...
Just monetary, we can cut you a check. I think our attorney might have to draft up some language about, what it's for, that it would be for environmental related causes, but obviously that's what you do. So, and I just, it all kind of happened quickly for us. The negotiations fell apart quickly for us, I guess. So we need to let them know by September 30th if you will accept.
Okay.
Other than that, there's no strings attached or anything, and we'll send you a check. So yeah.
Well, at this point, Matt, can we discuss where it's just a public comment, or do we have to have...
No, you can discuss it.
Okay. And in talking with Heather, are there any issues with accepting it?
We probably have to go to the Board of Selectmen to have them ratify the acceptance.
Okay.
And then we could deposit.
So we could
the check.
accept it
We could accept it
pending-
pending their approval.
Okay. All right. Well, any comment on accepting the gift from PJ Keating?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, yeah, I guess I'll accept the motion to accept the gift.
I move we accept the gift from PJ Keating pending ratification by the Board of Selectmen.
Second.
The motion is second. Any other discussion? Any discussion from the public? Seeing none, I'll take a vote on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, so we'll get it off to the town administrator, and the selectmen meet on next Tuesday, so
Great.
hopefully that'll meet the deadline.
Do you have a business card I can have?
I do. Let me grab one from my pocket.
Any other public comment? All right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Lett.
I did, but I was a little slow reaching for the mic there when you did before. But that was a good interruption. Yeah, I just wanted to comment. Our agent had prepared a really good little summary of, for sort of educating the public on do's and don'ts, when to come to the Conservation Commission, particularly focused at lakes, because we have so many activities going around lakes. And the LSIC had volunteered to get that out to the people, and I'm a little disappointed. It's been a while now, and I haven't seen anything come out. So I'm wondering if we could follow up on that, with them, or find some other vehicle to communicate. It's been, and it's fall, and this is lake's going down soon, and this is when activity starts.
People-
And there's new people, you see house sales all the time, and they just don't know, and it's, for them to learn coming here is not a good way to learn. So
Okay.
if we could follow up on that, that would be great.
Matt, can you follow up with the Lake Shirley Improvement Corp?
I also sent it to Hickory Hills as well, so,
Okay.
a couple of times.
Perfect.
so.
Yeah, see if we can get it out,
Again.
because the fall activities will be out. All right, any other questions or comments from the commission?
I have a comment.
Yes, sir.
I'm a graphics company, and if you'd like me to donate some good-sized signs to put around on the major roads to announce that to people, I'd be happy to donate that to us.
Okay, thank you. You can get your information when you come up.
Yeah.
That would be great. Signage is definitely a good way to get the word out, so.
It's the best,
Yep.
especially when you drive a car.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. All right, we'll start with our 7 o'clock hearing pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws. A public meeting on a request for determination by Bob Proctor for placement of a septic system within the buffer zone at 99 Pleasant Street. And is anybody here for 99 Pleasant Street? All right, we will move down the list in case they come in. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public meeting on a request for an amendment to an existing order of conditions by David King for the restoration of a beach area within a buffer zone at 667 Reservoir Road.
Gentlemen,
Good evening.
so I think you have, because I know I dropped them off to Matt, I think you guys all have plans in front of you, I'm hoping. Or on the folder. Or on the magic screen. So at our last meeting, to refresh all of you, I presented to you this map plan. And I don't think any of you have any real issues with it, but what you asked me to do, please send it to the engineering firm and have the engineering firm calculate exactly what the square footage is, outline it, define exactly what the size can be, how it needs to be bordered, and how it needs to be put together. And so I hired the engineering firm to do that. They did all the work for that property, and that's in front of you, and I'm hoping that you'll find that to be acceptable. And so you all know the sand that's going in the spot that used to have sand is the sand from the property. So I'm not bringing anything. I'm going to border it with pavers. I'm going to put down a barrier cloth underneath it so that nothing goes through the ground, nothing comes back up again. And plan to do the work as soon as possible. Oops.
You said you're gonna border it with pavers, like just one single paver, like around
Exactly,
it
all
as
the
a
way
border?
around, yeah, so
Okay.
I dig it out, put the cloth down,
Sure.
put the pavers around, fill it in with sand, smoothing it off, and then bring the dirt up and plant the grass around it. And then you can come down and measure it, make sure that I did a good job.
So augmented on this plan, we have proposed beach of 1,000 square feet, which you have the existing pictures of a historic beach in that square footage. All right, and which picture is that?
Okay, so the original picture is this one right there.
Okay,
And so I took that, and I made an outline of it to make sure equal sizes, and then I took 4 of them and figured out what the square footage was of the beach.
yeah,
And then I proposed making it a rectangle, so we don't have some weird little shape.
okay,
And putting it right at the edge where it used to be. And it's right on the edge of Mr. Gogan's property and mine.
Okay.
Right up against the area, which of course also now borders with the railroad ties that are in the water right now. And then it would be done. And we'll do it this weekend, if you allow me.
and we have provide straw wattle erosion, I just can't quite read it on your plan.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the engineers wrote that.
Straw wattle control around
Okay. around the
area during
during-
installation.
Okay,
Is that the brown stuff with the straw in the middle?
exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it just, in case we get a hard rain, it just keeps the sand from washing out of that area. All right, and just a little further, what does this say? Is that part of the addition?
Oh, we'll go to 400%, see what that does for us.
I blow it up, it's just not, I can't quite read it. So it is not readable.
Something about
Contour.
100-foot contour, 100 contour.
Right. So you're not proposing anything other than just that beach
That's it.
area? Okay, yeah, there's other areas written in red throughout the area.
This is the
so-
original plan.
Yep.
That, all he did was he just penciled that beach on, he didn't
Okay,
touch
so it's
anything
just
else. So
that little
this
part
is a
right
plan
there.
you've already approved for.
Okay. I wasn't sure if just the red that was the new part that you had added, but apparently it's just that red.
Yeah, just
Okay.
that one little, I don't know what the other red is.
Okay. Do you have an idea of how much sand, how deep the sand's gonna be?
I was planning on making about 8 inches.
8 inches?
I was looking at the railroad ties that are there, and I figured if I went down to the bottom of there's 2 sets of railroad ties, they go out this way into the water, and then they go across. So I was gonna go down 1 full depth of the railroad tie, which is about 8 inches, which I thought was a good level, because I can also buy the 8-inch bricks, too, to go around the edge, so keep it all flat. And it is flat down there, by the way, so no matter how much rain hit it,
It's not.
washing anywhere.
Are those, the hedgerow or whatever those are along the property line, are those installed yet, or are those?
Yes.
They are there?
Only down at the beach, not up the hill, and not between the 2 properties yet.
Okay. But
So what they did is when Paul Gauguin dug out his foundation, he put aside 100 yards, I think, is what he calculated I needed based on the plan. So he's got a big pile of 100 yards of pure sand right out of the hole, and I was going to put that down there, since it's from the same backyard.
All right, now at 8 inches deep, I only come up with, then I'd have to check my math, 8 cubic yards.
I don't know.
Yeah. So
Maybe it was only 8 yards. It couldn't be 100. That 100 yards is way too much. That's 5 dump trucks. I just know he's put a big pile out there, and I need to make the pile disappear so I can put my lawn in.
I was gonna say 100 yards, you could do the down beach up twice.
Yeah, 100 yards is a lot of sand, so.
Yeah, I just know there's a big pile out there, and he said, just take away what you need, and then I'll spread the rest of it around.
Okay, yeah, so only about 8 1/4 cubic yards, so it's not that much sand.
Well, then that won't take me
8
very
inches
long
deep,
then.
no, not at 8 inches deep. And you're putting fabric underneath, and you're
Correct.
just putting just a course of pavers around it?
That's it.
Okay. I don't have any problems with that. Any other questions from commissioners on that?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I would suggest that any motion to approve this, you add the 8 yards figure into the motion,
Okay.
just to make sure that everybody's clear.
Yep. All right, any other questions from commissioners?
No, just one comment and question. This is good to me. I did watch the prior time you came in on video. I wish I was here because it sounded like it was a good discussion. And it sounds like you've done a lot of good work and homework on the pros and cons of grass versus
Yes.
sand versus other things. I wonder if you could provide some references or any literature or things that you might have found that point us in that direction, because
I'll give you a little of my history. So my wife and I have owned property, and I've been on property now for 35 years. Everything's on water that I've ever owned. I worked very closely with the town of Lancaster for 17 years in the Conservation Board. And because I live in Fort Pond over there, and I have a fairly good piece of property, about 4 acres on the pond, I've learned a lot about it. Over the years, I've done extensive studies on what the fertilizers that we basically buy, Scott's, which is the most popular, has everything from Agent Orange in it to some pretty bad stuff. And if you get it near the water, it causes massive algae problems, and it really plays havoc with the water. Every place I've ever lived, and we own 6 homes all in water, the rule's always been no grass near the water, ever. I mean, even in Florida, they don't allow it. Sand, and it's got to be 100 feet away before you put grass. When you guys came and said you wanted grass, I went, gee, that goes against everything that's out there. Because the problem with grass is you can kind of control weeds if you want with a natural, non-chemical based system, but it doesn't work. And, Paul Gauguin went down and he put a bunch of sod down, a bunch of loam down there, had them come in and spray the grass down, it all died. And I looked at him and I said, well, you got to have irrigation systems, you're washing the fertilizer into the water, and you're doing all the wrong things. And I'm just as a person who's done this for a long time, I don't understand why this town keeps pushing grass up against water, because to have grass look good, you got to put chemicals on it. And those chemicals are just hell in the water. They kill the fish, they just play havoc. And the good news is you pull the water back. So but during the summer, when they put the fertilizer on, that's when the water's right up the edge. So I was always surprised by that, that's all.
Is there any, because I've heard
Yeah, I
that
actually
before,
brought
but
a document in that was done by the University of Wisconsin, I believe it was, because they have a lot of lakes out there. And I'll be happy to resend that to you.
Yeah, that'd
But it
be-
give a very extensive breakdown of what the chemicals do and which ones, and the phosphorus and nitrates, and what they do to the water, and how they affect the fish, and how they affect the massive algae growth. And so they've always said, don't do it.
Yeah, if you could resend that.
I'd be happy
to
to.
Matt, and then Matt, if you could just
Yeah, I'll send it to
out.
Matt, and then you can
That'd be
forward it
great.
to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you.
my pleasure.
Any questions or comments from the public? And Dr. P's just redid my math, it's 24.7 cubic yards, so.
Okay, thank you. I hope you're not planning for having me measure it.
No,
No,
but...
just don't want to have a 100-yard stump back on there, that's
I'm
all.
going to dig the hole, I'm going to make it exact size, I'm going to lay it out, I'm going to fill it with sand till it's level. I just don't know what that's going to be.
Basically, we're agreeing to 1,000 square feet, 8 inches deep.
Perfect, that's awesome.
All right, with no other questions, I'll accept a motion to approve the request for a 1,000 square foot beach with 8-inch depth of sand.
And that's an amendment to the existing
It's an
notice of
amendment to the
intent.
existing order of conditions.
I'd make that a motion.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All right, all set.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a great evening.
Measurements?
It's 1,000 square feet, 8 inches deep of sand, and as described in his
Let
application.
me know if you want those signs, because I can whip them up and have them out.
You happen to have a business card on you, Dave?
Yeah.
So you're also a realtor, or that was a
I've
past
owned a
life?
graphics company for 30 years in
Yeah.
marketing, and so I got into real estate a couple of years ago. So the graphics business is
Okay.
not very good anymore. They give everything away.
Yeah, if you can keep that, man. Perfect, thank you, Dave.
Thanks very much.
Have a great night. All right, moving forward, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter
Keep that, you
131.
already gave me one.
Okay, Section 40 is amended. Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public meeting on a request for determination by Fred Daly for the cutting of trees and stabilizing landscaping within a buffer zone at 238 Townsend Harbor Road. And we have Fred Daly. Fred, you want to come up? I need those back for the file, though.
We need them all back?
I need at least one more.
Matt, thank you.
I had brought these. Did you want one now?
Take them.
Actually, you can have two for the file, I've got it online.
Believe me, Dad had it.
Nice work.
Wonder who did that? Did the architect sign it?
No.
And stamp it? No?
Just a scope of work. Looking to remove 7 decaying trees, leaving the stumps behind. Like to rebuild the existing rock cinder block walls with a dry stack rock. Replacing the decayed cinder block stairs with rock treads and additional handrail. And I'd like to add dry stacked rocks for erosion retaining walls. They're outside of the 30-foot no-touch zone. Replace the existing dock with a removable dock. And rebuild the shoreline embankment with loose boulders and rocks. I have written down a 30-degree slope, but I was informed to do a 45. And then I'd like to seek permission to leave the old wooden dock that is on the property within the 30 feet of the water as a platform for the boats that are not in use. And I'd like to add some vegetation, blueberry bushes, boxwoods, some flowers, and I had placed down seagrass, but I hadn't realized what it was at the time. And what I was actually gonna look at is American beach grass, which is a native species growing from the Maine coast all the way down to the Georgia banks. That's also used in the Great Lakes region to hold back erosion and help other vegetation live. In here's just a quick summary of the print that is available. just showing where the bushes were. When Matt had come out on the second visit, we had kind of agreed right along the left side property line has a natural growth area with, was it a spillway? We're going to leave that there, not adding anything into there, just leaving that natural, and then just adding along the front. The next page is just showing the 30-foot zone on the property. The rock walls to be added would be outside of the property area. And then goes into just the 7 decaying trees. They're marked in there. Unfortunately, I noticed tonight that one of them did not make it into the pictures. It is in another set of pictures, I'll point it out.
It was one of the ones that was marked with a ribbon
Yeah,
on
it had a ribbon.
Yeah, we saw all the,
Yes.
a few of us
I
saw them.
believe, yes. And the stumps will be left. I mean, there is a total of 37 trees on the property. The next is just a picture of the erosion. Well, at the stairs, there's erosion, and then to the right of it tends to, it's washing down. It hasn't gotten to really an erosion part. And just like to shore it up with a loose pack. I know the graphics on this are a little cheap. It's just a cropped up picture, so they do look like it's implanted, but it will just be loose rocks packed, stacked up.
And that's looking at the steps from the water on the right
Well,
side, where it's
that would
just,
be to the right side of
Okay.
the steps.
where the soil is just
It's just,
graded now.
it's sand. It's, right now, there's just summertime weeds that are gonna be gone by the springtime, and they don't come back to the late, and it's all just sand, just trying to shore it up and just put some flowers, and like I say, the American beach grass on top, and mostly using that because it can take the salt and the grime from the road and still survive, and it's not a very invasive species. And then on to the next page, this is just where the stairs are and the old existing wall with the cinder blocks. I'd like to remove all the cinder blocks and take those out and just add some vegetation and, a little bit of loam just to help with vegetation with plants.
So is the wall gonna be 2-stage?
Yes, just it's going to be, fix the existing wall.
Yeah.
If you can see in the pictures there where the cinder blocks are, and then just a tier up higher, about 1 foot high, just across the top to just add as a buffer from the road. Part of the fear is when the trees come down, as it is with all of them dying, that there's more rain getting down in there, and there's nothing growing there to hold the soil back.
So that'll reduce that slope from what it is now to
Yes.
almost flat.
Well, I'm not planning on digging into it. I'm
Yeah.
just going to stack them right up
Okay.
on the front and let it all fill in
Sure.
itself.
Okay.
And then this is just showing the placement for, I'd like to put in a rolling dock. It'll be aluminum with cedar boards with a 1/2-inch slot inside of the boards. And just removable. And then this is also showing the pictures of the old dock that's down there. Just like to shore it up. We've been using it for boat storage. And like to move it off to the side, place it up on blocks, get it off the ground. And that would be pretty much right as you come off the dock, it would be over there to the right. And then just, there was a retaining wall there at one time. The picture's a little tough to tell. It was all cement blocks all together. Everything's washed off. I'd just like to rebuild that and keep it. The shoreline has been eroding away. And I believe that's pretty much it. And like I said, the only difference was, and to the right, the opposite side of where my other neighbor's side, I'd just like to put some bushes in there and build it up. And we're gonna put a couple bird houses with a bat house down there.
All right, so other than reinstalling the wall, you're not proposing any grading in the area?
No.
Okay. You're
No,
gonna-
just take out the cinder blocks and then just, you know.
And your steps will be in the
This-
continual position that they're in now going,
Well, I may have to add into a step or two. I
Okay.
mean, just to, right now, it's just cinder blocks just placed right in there, and they're a little far, and if you come in now, even after the last storm, you could see erosion just coming right down through them.
all right, so I guess, I know Carl and I had been out there. And I
Yes.
myself did not have any problems with the trees that were marked. They were all either the tops had been broken off or they were really starting to rot at the
Yes.
base pretty good. I don't know what you found, Carl, when we were there.
Yeah, no, the trees, I think, made a lot of sense, every one of them.
Yes, I do have email from the Lake Association approving removal for the 7 trees.
Okay. And replacement of the 2 walls the way you have them. Again, they're clearly existing. It's clearly a spot where the slope dropped about 4 feet, so there were
Yes.
clearly walls there. And the stairs, where the grade came down, we were just proposing that little bit of a 1 just to control that, to
Yes.
stop the erosion. You're not going to bring the wall up 3 feet, so it's not like you're putting,
No, I
you're not
don't.
continuing the wall through where there wasn't one. I think to add that 1 foot in there at the bottom to control the erosion, I don't have any problem with that. The only part I did have a little question on was when we were there, you had the old pieces of dock,
Yes, they're
on the
going to
ground.
be moved over to the side.
and you're going to use both of those, so it said they were about 70 square feet each?
I may
10 by
cut
7.
it down a little bit.
Okay.
It is a little large.
Okay.
I mean, I haven't really placed them over there or really measured it out to see, you know, it may just be a little just too much for that area.
Okay, so it'll be 280 square feet or less?
Yes.
Basically, is that right?
Yes.
Is that 140 square feet or less?
Less, yes.
Okay. All right. I had a little question or concern, and I can ask others to get or butt in on it, was the upper wall, where there really wasn't a wall there between the road and the
Yes,
longer
there-
wall.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that was one of my 2 observations here and potential
Yes.
concerns. Because those 1-foot walls, the upper walls and that one small lower
Yes.
wall are all 1 foot, right?
Yes, they're-
And although there's structures in the 50, I think we've done similar things with very low walls, 1 foot, just to,
Yes.
in the 30 to 50 area. So I've seen that before, and I think, so I think that's okay, in my opinion, anyway. Because they weren't there before, so it is appropriate to bring that up, because we are allowing some new walls. But again, I can't remember where we did it, but it was a similar situation, a gradual slope. and we
The
let
new
them put
walls,
a couple short.
I believe they're only in this section right here. I mean, you were talking, I think it's maybe a 5-6 foot wall, long.
Long, yeah, right, yeah, but none of them are over a
with 1
foot.
high.
Right, so I personally think those are okay. I do have, concern about the wooden platform, so, and I would feel a lot better if we could, gain some ground there and reduce some of that platform area, maybe to as much as half. 'Cause some of the boats you store are kayaks, it looks like.
Kayaks and
So it would be-
paddle boat.
those would be more appropriate for a rack, to put a rack in, than have a big flat dock that kills all the vegetation. So
I mean,
I'm hoping that maybe
in
one
the-
rack plus one of those
In the particular
docks.
area where it is going, there is no vegetation.
Yeah, and there won't be ever either.
No, there's never has been vegetation.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is it would be good
In
to
this-
end up better than we
In
were.
this area right in here, there has never been any vegetation. And I was going to place one in there and then move the other one out from the vegetation that grows down along Mr. King's property down to the shoreline. Because that was one of the parts where we discussed leaving, and that would not interfere with the vegetation growth, most everything in there. That was why I was going to probably cut one up a little bit shorter to allow the vegetation to stay.
In your opinion, why has there never been any vegetation where you're proposing that?
I have no idea. There's never been, nothing has ever grown there in the 5 years I've been there.
I would think it would be the soil conditions and the tree cover.
Yes.
The pine trees just don't allow anything to grow.
There's 37 trees. I know right over in there, there's a good 8 or 9 trees right in that area.
But we will, it may have a better chance now that we are removing trees.
Yeah, we'll get a little more light in.
Be a little more light in there and it might be able to
That
get some-
corner's a little, that still has, unfortunately, I have a black and white photograph. You know, there's still a very good amount of trees right across the front there.
Think you could get away with just one of the platforms instead of just the 7 by 10?
Yeah, I think we can manage with that.
Okay. How would that do,
Yeah,
Carl?
yeah,
That would definitely lessen the footprint there.
That would be good. That would be good.
Okay. All right.
The only question I had, Mr. Chairman, was on the drawing, it says add 6-inch high rock
Yep.
erosion walls.
I was
Is that
getting out that way, yes.
the improvement along the shoreline? Is that what that note is?
Yes, that's going to be along like the existing beach area, just.
And that's just to put the
6
boulders
inches.
in and reinforce the
Couple boulders
shoreline?
right along
Sure.
the shoreline.
Okay. No, that was the only question I had. I think that this is it's obviously an area that they use now, it's existing, and I think that generally this is a pretty big improvement over what's there now.
So I did have one other comment. When you're redoing the lakefront or lake shore,
Yeah.
as you're placing the boulders in there, try not to smother out any of the plant growth that is in there now.
Okay.
Because that is, that root system is what's
Yeah.
holding that banking in.
Yes.
So if you just pile a stone, then you kill the plant material off there, then when it rains,
Yeah.
there's no more roots in there to hold it, and it'll percolate out through the stumps.
Yes.
So just be really selective as you're putting it in there, because I remember you and I walked out there
Yes,
quick,
yes,
and it
we
looked
did.
pretty good. It just, some spots needed a few more rocks than others, but it was
Yes.
pretty stable all along there.
When
And
you do the drawdown, though, you can really see
Yeah,
out
well-
into the front where it's
Yes, and that's where if you got to
rolling
put some stone in there to help with the wave action.
Okay.
But then that lip is
Yeah.
where all the root systems
Yeah.
are. So if you smother out the plants, then that lip falls out, and then it erodes more underneath, and the next lip falls. So you really want to try to keep as much of that plant material in there as possible. It really makes a
Talking
big
about
difference.
Stone embankment, right?
Yes, the lake shore, the
Right,
lake embankment,
that's
yes. Yeah, because it is very well vegetated through there, so.
And reducing to one platform was for the boats, correct?
Reducing to one platform, yes, was
I
for the
just
boats.
wanted to double check, make sure I got it right.
Yep, yeah, because there's currently 2 on site when we did the site walk, so you're just going to take one out and use the other one.
Yes,
Plus, you have to leave enough space so you can wheel the dock out anyway, so.
yes.
It's a pretty compact area. So you're not planning, other than the 7 trees, you're not planning to get rid of any vegetation?
No.
You're not planning
Just
to
gonna
do
add
any
some.
grading of the area other than what's needed to put the walls back in?
Yes.
Okay.
And there was no proposal for any new sand or anything like that for the beach area?
No.
Okay.
It's all kind of sand now,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's a
it really doesn't
sandy-
need any. All right, no, I think that addresses all of my concerns.
I have no questions or concerns.
Any questions or concerns from the public on 238 Townsend Harbor Road? All right, seeing none, I'll accept a motion for a negative determination.
I move we have a negative determination with the note that on number 6, it's a 45-degree slope, not a 30-degree slope. Number 7, that there'll be 1 platform, not 2. And in number 8, that it's American beach grass.
I would just check to make sure on the beach grass, just as a comment, that the beach grass will grow
I do have.
in the freshwater areas.
Yes,
Generally,
it says it's-
dune grasses need the salt to survive.
Yeah, I
so.
didn't read it on the USDA sheet.
Okay.
It didn't, it said it's a little difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But it said also that it has a harder time regenerating itself
Yep.
than if you're adding it.
Yep, and a lot of times grasses themselves need full sun,
Yeah.
which you have very little of here, unfortunately. So you may end up having to substitute another ground cover
Okay.
for that. So just be aware of that. That
Yeah.
If that doesn't
Yes,
take,
I
you'll
know.
have to pack a sander or a
So,
zinc.
Mr. Chairman, are you suggesting I modify my motion to eliminate the reference to American beach grass?
I think you may have to, because I'm not 100% sure it will
Done.
survive there. But some sort of vegetation will have to be put in there, so.
Yes. All right, I was just trying to find something that the road wouldn't take away and destroy.
All right, so we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any other discussion?
Just a clarification on the 45-degree angle.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a maximum of 45? We don't want it steeper than 45.
No, I think an average of 45.
Yeah. So but
just
if
he
it
had
was 30, it would still comply.
Yeah, he had it at 30, we should have it at 45. So it looks more like a banking, so the water will lose velocities it's running up it as opposed to just smashing
Okay.
it.
Because we're going to define where the angle is. I was picturing that the angle at a 30 was shallower than a 45.
Oh, I was picturing 30 was this way and then, yeah. So an average of 45 degrees.
Okay.
Does that sound good to you, Carl?
Yeah, I think if it's
Less.
if it's less
Less is better, yes.
relative to the water, it's better.
Yep, perfect. All right, any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, you're all set. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Did anybody come in for 99 Pleasant Street? Okay, moving forward. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public meeting on a request for determination by Forrest and Terry Hyde for the placement of a treehouse within the outer 50-foot buffer zone at 393 Arbor Street.
Gentlemen. Hello.
Now I know where I know you from for. It's been a long time.
Yes.
All right, what are we doing?
We're going to be building a small tree house under 200 square foot on the property. It's outside of the 50-foot, but within the 100-foot zone. It's relatively about 4 feet elevation above any flagged boundaries. There's a rather simple structure.
Plan for this, man?
I think that was one.
I got confused that you say 4 feet above the...
Well, I'm sorry, the elevation of the land from where the flags that were marked, the wetlands are marked on both sides.
Yeah.
And from those flags to the ground, it's about 4 feet up, and then we're going to go 12 feet up.
Yeah, I
from
thought so. That's why 4 feet threw me. I thought it was really up there.
Yeah. So then 12 feet up from the ground.
Essentially, I went out with Mr. Hyde at the closest point to where the wetland would meet the proposal, and I did a horizontal measurement with a tape measure.
And that was?
It was 51 feet at the
Mark it
closest point.
51
Yeah,
feet.
I thought it was 52.
52,
I remember seeing that.
yeah, it's 52 and 51.
Okay.
Those were what I measured at the closest points.
Okay.
And this is literally, I'm glad I got a chance to go out there because it really literally is in the middle of the woods.
It is, yes. That's what we're looking forward to, just being out there with nature and,
Yeah.
seeing.
Good spot.
So the existing path goes through the wetland to get to it? Is that
Yes,
correct?
correct.
Okay. Is it an elevated path or by
No,
pre-existing?
since we bought the property,
No, it's a ground path that goes
Ground
through.
path that goes-
Meets up with the whole trail network that goes through the woods.
Okay. And does this wetland ever get inundated with water?
That section?
Yeah. I mean, if it's a wetland.
The soil
then
gets,
path-
the soil can get a little murky, but
Okay,
there's nothing flowing through it now.
okay. And we're using the path through the wetland to get the material out to the house site?
Yes.
Okay. And I didn't see it. You said you saw it, Carl?
Yep.
Is there a problem with using that roadway? Is it gonna?
I didn't seem that,
Okay.
it wasn't real wet, it wasn't raining the day we were there, so it didn't seem like I was going across wetlands.
Okay.
But yeah, this is a particularly wet year, so I can tell you, if you're out in the woods, anything that's wet is wet.
Yeah, that's why I was surprised it was wetlands, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Oh, really? It wasn't? Didn't have all the characteristics?
No.
All right. And we're 51 feet out. Are we taking any trees down to get out to it, to build it?
The only thing that could come down, a couple small 2 or 3 inch scrub pines that are between the large oaks
Yeah.
that the treehouse will go up into.
All right. Any utilities or?
There is going to be electricity and cable run
Okay.
out to that.
Okay, and it's going to be overland?
Yes,
Over,
above,
Elevated,
yes,
okay.
elevated, yes.
and they'll just be No, put into the trees.
No, it's going to go
Yeah,
right...
poles put out.
There's going to be one pole, a temporary pole, I mentioned to Matt,
Yep.
just so they could service out there, and then it'll be attached to the treehouse.
Okay.
From an existing corner of the house over to the treehouse.
So how far is it from the house? 300 feet?
No. It's probably, from that corner is right on on that line to the wetlands was right at the minimum for the house was to be built.
Yeah. So we have 50, 100, 200 feet?
Probably not even that.
Okay.
It'd be under that.
And is the pole itself going into the wetlands?
No,
Okay.
no.
The pole's gonna be here at the edge of the house?
Yes.
And they'll just
It's gonna
put the
go-
drop all the
yes.
way across?
Yes.
Okay. No bathrooms, composting toilet, anything like that out there, no? And what are the dimensions of the treehouse?
About 17 by 12.
17 by 12, all right. Well, I guess I don't have any other questions.
The access is a ladder, or is it a set of stairs?
There's going to be a set of stairs.
Okay. And that's still outside the...
Yes, that's actually further away from
Okay,
the wetlands. Perfect. Coming towards the treehouse.
So then there's really nothing going on within that 50-foot zone at all? And there's no grading for the treehouse?
No.
Maybe 2 blocks to set the stairs on as you put them up?
At the most.
Okay.
At that point, it's fairly level.
Okay. And is it always going to be just a footpath to get out there? Or you gonna
Correct.
make a- Okay.
Yeah, just a
So it's
walking
never going to
path.
be a driveway out there?
No driveway at all. No.
He'd wreck his Halloween scary land. If he did it that way.
We do decorate for the holidays, yes.
All right. Any other questions from commissioners? Any questions from the public on, where are we at? 393 Arbor Street.
Comment?
All right.
Matt has a comment.
Yes.
I just wanted to give a few props to Mr. Hyde for coming forward, being proactive, and working on a location that was outside the 50-foot zone.
Thank you.
All right, seeing none, I'll accept a motion for a negative determination for 393 Arbor.
So moved.
All right, thanks. Motion and second, any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Have fun with the house.
Thank you.
Sounds very neat.
All right, moving forward. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public meeting on a continued request for determination by Michael Tuss for construction of a paver patio and 2 decks within a buffer zone at 48 Oak Ridge Road. Anybody here for 48 Oak Ridge Road? We'll leave that one open for now. Moving on, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public meeting on a continued request for determination by Glenn Reinhardt for the rebuild of an existing shed within a buffer zone at 53 Pearl Street. Good evening.
Good evening.
What did we come up with tonight, Glenn?
Well, there were 2 things from the last meeting. One was to see if I could find any place to put the shed outside the 30-foot zone. And I did run around with my wife with a tape measure, trying to figure the best place we could locate that. And the second is that I produced a little better drawing than I had last time.
Oh, nice.
So I did, this is a drawing from when we built the house, but the reason I selected this one, it shows the 30-foot line and it shows the 50-foot line
Okay.
on it. And you can see the lean-to that we're talking about is right here. It's within the 30. When we looked in this area, sorry, Ken.
That's all right.
There wasn't a good place that didn't allow access down to the beach area, especially with the lawnmower and such, and to put it over here, especially without taking out a few trees to do that. So I thought to myself, I said, well, what is I really want to do is, this is storing the snow blower, the lawnmower, and the quad with the plow on it for plowing the access road. And I said, well, maybe I can put a garage extension on the house, which is outside the 30-foot zone, and then I get a spot for the cars and the storage for the lawnmowers and stuff. And then I tear this down and get it out of here. So, did walk around, tape measure, try to figure it out what was best, and there's no good place really because of the narrow peninsula to put this. Out here's the front yard, septic system wasn't going to work. The garage is actually covering, and I do have a picture. It's a 3-bay garage, and it would cover the existing driveway. So it's already been a paved surface there. This is another view.
So a new garage would come out this way?
Yeah, I actually played with it quickly before coming to the meeting. Said, okay. But I have, since we've moved there, my mother has moved in, and she's got a car, and she keeps saying hers is newer, and she wants in the garage. But
So, just to back up, so we would abandon the lean-to in the shed.
we would abandon the lean-to. The shed would be a little harder for me to do.
Okay.
First of all, that's where the tubes are and the paddles and everything else that we use down here.
Yeah.
Also, the pump for the sprinkler system comes in here, so I'd have to relocate that pipe.
Yeah.
And the electrical service to that.
Okay.
So I'm hoping I can keep this here and remove that lean-to.
Okay.
So that was the best solution I could come up with. It's certainly more expensive that way, but it also makes my mother happy.
So, Mr. Chairman, I did take a look at this with Glenn, and it looks like a good solution. It does leave the shed, but the shed that's being left is an actual shed building. It's not a, lean-to.
Yeah.
And it's been there quite a while. But we do gain because now we'll pick up, some pervious area when the lean-to goes away.
Yeah.
And we're not going to lose anything because you said that's all tarred up there already.
Blacktops now, yeah.
So it looks like a really good solution, and we end up better than before Glenn came in the first time.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I also think this is a good solution.
Okay. All right. Couple things that would have to change, I fear, if you're going to put the garage in, you'd probably have to file a notice of intent.
Well, I will have to.
You have to refile for the...
I'll have to refile and get
Yep.
notice of intent, building permits and everything. So, like I said, I've already talked to an architect to come down and look at the place and do this.
Yeah, and where it's going on an already impervious surface, I mean, I think that kind of swapping it over would stay within the spirit of our 50-foot no structure.
Good. Well, I appreciate that.
And that is, it's a tight, that site, basically everything is sort of within the 50 there.
Yep.
Yeah, a little tough.
It's a hard site.
Yep. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, at this point, I don't have just one caveat. This is not an approval. So if something happens and when you come back, there are 5 new members on the board,
Exactly.
you could be subject to their decisions. So
Correct.
Just to put that on the record, that this is not an approval of it, so.
Exactly. Understood.
Okay. All right.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. So at this point, you're going to withdraw your request?
withdraw.
Okay.
And did you want to, Matt, did you want to keep this at all, or since we're withdrawing, or I don't know if you want to
At this point, I would just resubmit it.
resubmit it? Actually, it'll be better
We're
than
gonna have to make some copies, so you should make a few copies, and then we can get together in the office and go over.
Okay.
Well,
Material
you'll
you're
probably
gonna
want to
find.
meet with your architect quick, make sure the dimensions are exact and proper.
Exactly.
Because you'll need the plan for the building inspector anyway, so.
Exactly.
Yep,
Thank you
get
very
that
much.
all done. You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So at this point, it has been withdrawn without prejudice. And has anybody come in for 48 Oak Ridge Road? So at this point for 48 Oak Ridge Road, I'll accept the motion to continue the meeting until October 5th, 6th, 4th?
It's October 4th.
October 4th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I will accept a motion to continue 99 Pleasant Street until October 4th.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And
We want to continue 99 Pleasant.
that was 99 Pleasant.
Oh, okay.
We just continued both of them. And pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, as amended, the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection Municipal Bylaws, a public meeting on a continued notice of intent by Settlers Solar for construction of a 6-megawatt solar field within the buffer zone at 994 Northfield Road with a wetland crossing and replicating 1,410 square feet of wetland resource area. So they have asked for continuation. They have submitted plans to the planning board. Matt has not reviewed them for moving the access way so that they no longer need the wetland crossing. I did get some response from the engineer on our questions. Did you have the written answers, Matt?
Is the peer review engineer?
Peer review engineer, yes.
Actually, no, I have I left the file at the office.
Okay.
Because we weren't going to need it.
All right, 'cause you got him. I don't think he emailed me a copy. All right, so basically, the questions I had sent out,
He didn't email you? I thought I emailed everybody a copy of it, but
I don't think so.
No.
I can do that right now.
okay, perfect, and we can just review them quick. So, one of the questions I asked Jeff was the area of disturbance. He said there was a total of 3 acres, 130,000 square feet within the 100-foot buffer zone. 1.7 acres were going to be treed only. 1.3 acres were going to be treed and the stumps removed. He did not get back to me with the panel area. He said that would have been in their stormwater report. And my questions had to do mainly with what we discussed, the rate of runoff. He was pretty happy with the curve numbers that Ross Associates had used. He was pretty happy with the time concentrations, so he thought that their calculations in the basins were accurate and the water runoff shouldn't overflow the roadway and shouldn't inundate the basins. One concern he did have was he didn't think the swales were quite properly sized. So that was one thing he was working back with Ross Associates on. He thought the swales may end up getting overrun.
Those were some of the same comments that DEP had too, I think, right? In the letter that...
Well, I'll get into those second.
Okay, all right.
So the swales and the drop inlets. He thought on a larger storm, the drop inlets would be inundated and overflow. So those were some of the concerns we had. He did definitely agree with an on-site monitoring during construction. So he put that in his report. We also got responses back from DEP when they issued the notice of intent number. Their concerns were some of the same as far as vegetation. She wanted some of the numbers run a little differently, so they are going back to Ross Associates is going to rerun those and submit them, and then the review engineer will go back through them. She definitely had concerns about and Matt's talked to her since, she definitely had concerns about the construction timing and making sure that stabilization occurred as fast as possible.
Okay, I sent it out.
Okay, perfect. And one of the other concerns she had was to the basins themselves where Pearl Brook is a cold water fishery. She wanted more capacity in the basins due to the warming of the water. So they are going back and redesigning the basins to fully hope to retain a 2-year storm, I believe. So to try to alleviate some of the concerns that DEP had. So they are back to work on some of them. We also received the plan moving the roadway out of the wetlands, so there is no wetland crossing. So they are working on that at the moment. And they are, at this point, you said they were We're requesting continuance to the October 4th meeting?
That's correct.
Okay. So I'll
I
accept the...
did reach out to them to see if they were going to need more time in the October 4th meeting, based on the email discussion you and I had, and I haven't heard back from them. They
Okay.
haven't responded.
All right. One other thing I did ask Matt to prompt them for was a much more in-depth construction schedule. So as far as the basin areas should be cleared, the basin should be built first, the basin should be stabilized. They should be clearing in sections and stabilizing as they go, because if they just go in and clear 32 acres, pull all of the stumps off, and we get a 1 in 5 year storm, you're going to have a muddy mess. So,
Yeah, one of the biggest problems with solar fields of this size that, you know, DEP is in agreement with me on, we have a common view on that because I've seen them too, is that they tend to have, in these hillier areas, they tend to have erosion problems. So you really got to be careful with your phasing and your erosion protection. And it's one of the reasons why I've been recommending that Nexamp put money in a pool, a 53G pool, and we have an environmental monitor on site. I mean, the amount of acreage that you're going to be, you know, just proposing to be cleared and the erosion hazards that are on that site. You know, obviously, the drainage is a sensitive issue with the cold water fishery. I think a monitor, and I asked DEP what they thought of the idea, and they strongly recommend it, and they love the idea of having a monitor on this particular site. They've been having a lot of the old permits were limiting the amount of megawatts to like 3 or 4 megawatt sites. Now they've changed the permit limits, so now they're getting flooded with 6 or 7 megawatt sites, and from their experiences prior, that's why they're recommending the monitors as well.
okay. And their first application didn't have any erosion protection listed on there, so after watching, was it 70 or 90 Oak Ridge, where we approved the final, and all of a sudden seeing from beginning to end what happened in the middle, we definitely want to make sure that we're watching what's going on from beginning to end. That's great. And again, with a weekly monitor, bi-weekly monitor, or whatever, how the work is progressing, making sure somebody's on site.
That was my question, is how does that monitoring work? There's like bi-weekly or weekly, or how does that work?
We would probably let them suggest how it would work, and then we would sharpen it from
The
there.
first part of the clearing, it should be daily, then go to weekly, then go to bi-weekly.
Thank you.
That's why the chairman's recommendation for the construction phasing is important, because that would determine the frequency that we'd want to recommend.
Thank you.
And some of it would go along with the planning board, because they also issue the stormwater permit. So, right now, where they're still inside the 100-foot, we still have jurisdiction. And they have jurisdiction outside of that with the stormwater, so there'll be a little bit of crosswork with the planning board. All right, moving forward, I will
So
accept the...
I'm sorry.
No problem.
I was going to ask you, so don't we have to continue this?
Yes, I'll accept the motion to continue 994. Any questions from the public? All right, I will accept the motion. Oh, you did have one?
Did you say
Just
it was
come-
Yeah. Just a quick question. Is it 32 acres? Is that what you said? That it's all-
I believe it's a 32-acre site, yes.
They're clearing 32?
They are clearing 32 acres to put up 6 some odd acres of solar panels.
I think it was like the total acreage was like 90-something acres, right, for the whole parcel?
I think the whole parcel was at least, yeah, it was 2 parcels
Yeah.
together, so it's all part of the Settlers Crossing Golf Course. So it's the site just to the west of Settlers Crossing on Northfield Road. And they're still at the planning board discussing it, as well as at the conservation, so there's still a few hearings left. All right, any other questions? All right, I'll accept the motion to continue 994 Northfield Road to October 4th.
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second. Second. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, what I put for the prospectus up on the cloud is actually the correct one. That was the original one. He added basically a sentence, number 17, you look at that page.
Okay, we'll get to it in a second.
Just wanted to let you know.
Okay, perfect. All right, current business and enforcements. Matt, you had a site walk at 183 Hemlock Drive today.
Yeah, and I mean, I went with Commissioner Luck. The lean-to structures are gone. That particular side of the house is cleaned up very nicely. There's a lot of wood debris piled in the back of the house, covered with a tarp, and there's some sawhorses, so it looks like he's doing some work on the house structure itself. The walls is, you know, I mean, that's been gone for a while, but in the center of the backyard where the banking is, where the wall is starting to drop and erode in. Fortunately, the sill fence we had him put out there is holding everything back. I mean, he's progressing, and he actually did some good progress this time as compared to what we had. And I keep looking at that banking that he's got out there, and, you know, I'm thinking, you know, number one, he's gonna have to repair that, obviously. But the second thing is, instead of putting in a wall, we might wanna think of having him do the terraced boulder, like he's got on the remainder of his property. Kinda like what we did with Mr. Daly just now. We might wanna consider that. I think that would have the effect of, number one, stabilizing that bank, which is eroding away. And number two, you know, the way we have them do the rock staggering, it would promote growth in between and some potential critter habitat.
Okay. Did you want to try to work with him on a proposal to that end?
That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Luck?
Yeah, the site certainly looks a lot better. It's cleaned up on the side, and, you know, we're making good progress. He's trying. He's still in the middle of a lot of projects, so, you know, there's other areas that are impacted, but not, but it's getting better.
Okay.
The only concern I had was, you know, looking at it, is how we define, or how he defines where the line is anymore, because of some of the erosion and the effort to take the wall out, where, if a wall went back, where a wall would go. There's only one area where there's clear signs, as we looked at, in the water, where there was a wall, you know, maybe 30 feet long or something, where it's pretty clear where there was a wall. So that, and right now, it's probably, I don't know, what do you think, Matt, a couple of 3 feet off the shore, right?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like he's actually pulled the shoreline back when he
Right.
took the wall out. What I would do is I would repair what's there, you know, the holes, and leave that in place, because I think you've actually gained some land underwater,
Right.
and then just repair what's in place.
Right, yeah, so that would have been so, you know, I could see, I guess, what's the process? Because I could see a wall.
Foundation of an old wall in the water.
So the remnant is still there?
Remnant's still
remnant's
there,
still
yeah.
there.
And
Okay,
it's-
so the remnant is, so he's basically supposed to be putting it back on the remnant
Yeah,
of what
so
was
there it's pretty clear, but that's only about 30 foot, if that, of the shoreline.
Yep.
Whereas the whole affected shoreline is, you know, 50, 100 feet, I don't know. So the question is, what outside of that, and that's where I would lean towards, you know, what Matt was saying. Other than where we know there was a wall, I could see a wall there and recover that land that's now gotten, you know, eroded away. But in the rest of it, I agree with Matt, just, you know, with the rock
Bank
support
replication. Okay.
would be the best approach. I don't know what the next step is. How, does he
See,
come back in?
my thought
or-
process on that is, it's obvious where it was eroding away. He pulled it back. So we've gained land underwater over there. We're not sure of the other dimensions on the left-hand side. We are in the center and on the right.
Right.
So if we have him leave it in place, it would probably compensate for whatever we're unsure of on the left-hand side by keeping that in the same area and not letting him go out to the remnant of the wall, and just have him, you know, do the staggering like we've done with Mr. Viviano and like we've just approved with Mr. Daly. I think that would be an excellent solution to that place.
Okay. Can you work with him?
I definitely will.
To have him by the 20th
Okay.
be in with a
We'll
plan?
give him a shout in the morning.
Okay, yeah. So either the 4th or the 20th, whatever's easier for him. Get that moving, because then, once the water's down, that's when the time comes to put it back in
Yeah,
place
because
where it's
we're
supposed
going
to
to have to reclaim that area that washed in and put it back in.
Yep, okay. All right, so at this point, you'll work with him, so we'll either see him on the 4th or the 18th, I'm sorry. 70 Oak Ridge Road. Anything happen at 70?
I actually had a conversation with Mr. Rowe about that. Apparently, they are getting ready to do the work. He's just not sure when. It depends on the retaining of the new contractor.
Okay. It's stable right now?
It's stable.
Okay. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure why they're not starting the wall. It's kind of a little bothersome, but if they're about to, that's good. Except, I took a look at some more detailed pictures of the before and the current, and have additional concerns about where that wall is. Because in the photographs, and I brought some, it looks like it not only went up, but that it came closer to the lake. And that's concerning to me, because there was no comment about it in this direction, and we kind of didn't even look hard at that, or just assumed it was in the same place. But just a peek at curiosity.
Well, Mr. Rowe did indicate that he had pre-existing shots on file of the existing wall. He did indicate that when he submitted the plans.
Yeah, maybe we didn't look
We should
closely.
probably have that addressed at least in a narrative as to whether or not that wall is in the existing spot. We know the height is, and the length is blown as far as where it is in this relative to being closer to the lake. I can ask him to clarify that in at least a narrative.
Yeah, if we could, but if you look at these three pictures, that's what puzzled me. When you look far away, so this is the pre-existing wall, right? That was removed. And for reference, if you look at this wall here on the side and this blue thing next to that tree, you kind of get a sense of where everything is. And this is a close-up of that little corner. And you see the blue thing, the tree is, over here, a ways down the wall. And if you look at the current wall, here's the blue thing, here's the tree, and the wall looks like it's pretty much up there. So it looks like it's moved forward. See, this one you can't even see the tree, and here's the wall over there.
I can see how this photograph and this photograph would be, this is a blow-up of this photograph.
Yeah, that's just the corner.
I mean, if I look at this photograph and this photograph, I mean, it's conceivable that...
But look at this one, because these are the same perspective.
I go back to, we have an engineer who went out there and did a survey and is willing to submit that survey to the commission and put his stamp on it, and that's good enough for me.
But my eyes question it.
And we went, never mind.
So I guess maybe what I would like to suggest is maybe our next site visit, we just go down there with the survey that Mr. Pete mentions, with the dimensions on it.
Yep.
And just do our own check.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, but I think the original contractor walked off the site, and that's why no more work is being done. They're trying to secure another contractor. 571 Chase Road. Did we get out there on the sidewalk on Saturday?
No, but I've driven by it.
Okay.
I mean, I pulled in.
I went down there this afternoon, actually.
Okay.
And I can't remember what it looked like before, but I did go home and look at the satellite that's from the town's website, not all over, but from the town's website, which shows the vegetation out there. The biggest concern to me when I went out there was not so much the bushes and vegetation that were missing, but how much storage of equipment is very close. I believe less than 30 feet from the wetland. This old equipment that's leaking God knows what, that is just really pushed down into that corner that I don't think was there before.
Okay.
And I have some pictures. I'm concerned about the erosion because it goes right up to where it goes under the road, And you can see these big puddles from where this equipment is that are, going directly into that stream. So and it may have been that way before, I don't know what, I don't know what the last event was, but the condition there today is worrisome to me about the possibility. I thought we had a restriction on how close you could get to a wetland with storage of vehicles and equipment, and I'm not sure that they're complying with that. And the erosion directly into that stream with no buffer area, just.
We don't have a regulation written per se. We usually regulate it when a permit situation comes up or an RDA situation comes up, or in this case now, an enforcement situation. And I know when you and I discussed it when we were out on site earlier, one of the things I had noted was that I was wondering if they were, clearing it, thinking maybe they were just going to pipe over it and extend their parking. So I totally can relate to your concern about the equipment being parked that close. It does pick up a lot of sand runoff from the main road.
Yeah, but this is from puddles in their parking lot.
The point I'm getting at is part of the remediation could be to maybe, see all the vegetation that was around there acted as a filter to keep sediment from getting in, except from Route 13.
Right.
So maybe we could have them do some type of remediation to take care of that as well.
Yeah, I just think that more eyes should get on it, just to see what it really looks like, and if there's other things we should be doing or asking them to do.
Well, I mean, my recommendation would be to tell them to hire a wetlands person to have them do a remediation plan. Not necessarily an engineer, but a wetlands person. Wetland scientists could come up with a decent reclamation plan that could accomplish a lot of these goals.
That makes sense.
Who did they have that submitted before? Vertec?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Vertec submitted, because this was they were moving their well because
they
of
had submitted
pollution.
a well because of some water pollution.
Yeah, they
So
have
they're
plans
already,
stuff
and they
for
have
that.
monitoring wells there because of the pollution that was previous, I believe, to the current owner.
That's correct.
And I'm just looking, this is gonna take forever, so we can move on. I have the plan here from their original RDA.
You guys having fun yet?
All right. So at this point, we'll table that, and I'll work with Matt on having them put forth something for what they're using the property for, then address your concerns about all of that storage. 250 Howard Street.
I had gone by 250 Howard Street. That was previously permitted for a small crossing from an intermittent stream. And the owners started cutting into the vegetation around the culvert, cutting up into the stream area. It looks like what they were trying to accomplish was they were trying to clean out probably some areas around the culvert that had silted up. I sent them a notice of non-compliance, told them to essentially stop what they were doing, stabilize the site, let the vegetation grow back in, and if they were going or planning on doing any further work, that they needed to contact the office.
All right, have we heard anything back from them?
No.
Okay. Have you been out to see if they've stabilized the site?
Yeah, they haven't, they've cleaned the site up a little bit.
Okay.
It's not totally yet, but.
All right. So you work with them and see if we can get it cleaned up for the 4th. If not, we can move forward. All right. Does that sound good?
Yep.
Okay.
Where is this on 250 Howard, man?
It's the neighbor to Jacobson's.
It's across the street though,
Just
right?
before Jacob.
I think it's just
Zoom in.
before.
Should be across the street. 250 is on the right-hand side.
Oh.
It's on the even side.
Where are we looking at? Over here?
Jacobson's is like, what, 281 or something?
No, it's 189, I think.
189.
So
It's on the opposite side of the street.
No. So it's 250.
Very odd.
250 Howard Street is
So it's, might be the,
this one,
okay.
Yeah.
which is why I'm confused.
Well, the address I had listed on the file form was 250 Howard Street. I didn't get a bounce back.
Okay.
Okay. But maybe if they don't get it cleaned up beforehand, before the 4th, we'll have them come in.
And go to, actually, just go to 189 Howard.
Okay.
Move over a little bit. Well, wait a minute. It's the property right here. This is the Jacobsons. Here's where we had the remedial work. Here's the property here. The violation was just out in front of the street right there.
Wait, so if you identify, that's 125 Howard Street. Okay,
It could have been listed as 250 when they subdivided the lots.
okay. Excellent, all right, thank you, I just was,
So it's one,
Trying to figure out what's
the actual
up.
address is
The
125?
actual address, yeah.
well,
It's right here, right in the front.
Where the driveway comes
Yeah,
in.
where the driveway comes in.
all right, thank you. Now I understand.
So these people, 250 Howard Street probably got a letter and was very confused.
Well, I mean, it had the names of the property owners on it, so the postman probably
Oh, okay.
would just
All
would
right.
have put it in the same, because they do that routinely. They'll just cross it out and write the correct address and throw it in
Well, they
the
would have
box.
returned it to you if it wasn't.
I would have already gotten it back like Monday.
North Leominster Rod and Gun.
This was the one with the bullets. About a month ago, I received a letter from a
It's
resident.
called shot. It's not bullets, it's shot.
Okay. I stand corrected.
Lead shot.
Lead shot.
Yes. The one with the bullets.
I still call them bullets because they hurt. Essentially, I got a letter from a Westminster resident who apparently is a member of the club, and it was a copy of a letter that was issued to DEP, asking what DEP was going to do on an enforcement action on this. So I kept it on file, because when I had asked around about it, what I was told was that there was an agreement with DEP where they go in with this machine and essentially vacuum everything out as far as the shot goes into the wetlands. That was a month ago. Last week, I received another letter from the same gentleman, still addressed to DEP, copied to us, but when you read the letter, it actually seemed like they were talking to us, asking what we were going to do about it, because if we didn't do anything, they were going to go to the state, but yet the letter was addressed to the state. So rather than sitting there trying to, get confused, I scanned the letters, sent them off to DEP and said, what's going on, help me out. So I'm still waiting for a response from DEP. But my understanding was there was a consent agreement with the Rod and Gun Club where they go in and vacuum the shot out.
I'm not picturing what's going on. Vacuum the shot out of,
The wetlands.
vacuum the shot out of the
They're still shooting into the wetlands, is what the allegation was.
vacuum the wetland.
Yeah, they actually have a machine that can take that stuff out. They come up with machines for everything, Carl.
And so where is the North Leominster Rod and Gun Club?
Right at the end of Lancaster Ave, just before you get to Leominster Shore.
Yes, of course. I go by it all the time.
So we received a letter stating that back in 2001, the club had entered into an agreement with the DEP for soil testing and lime treatment until such to prevent the lead from infiltrating into the water, until such time as the lead shot from the trap range could be taken up out of the soil. 2016, the club hired a company and they reclaimed 200,000 pounds of lead.
Wow.
That's what the letter says. 200,000 pounds of lead shot was removed from the range and transported out of state. They also, so the letter goes on to state that there is also a skeet range off to the side that nothing has been done with. So the lender was complaining about the skeet range and nothing's been done there. So that was sent to DEP and then we had a follow-up that we just got a couple weeks ago asking what was going on. So Matt is contacting DEP to see where they stand on this, where they're the ones that entered into the agreement. So
Yeah, I asked them, because I don't have any copies of any agreements from DEP, no consent. I've heard this anecdotally, but I've yet to receive copies of an administrative consent order. I know they are removing the shot out of there, but
From the ski range?
that's what I've been told.
Okay.
That they are already removing it.
Okay, all right, so, but we're just gonna follow up. Unfortunately, we don't get the correspondence if DEP comes up with a negotiated agreement, as we just found out with Keating's donating their fine.
No, it's kind of weird. I mean, if they're giving the wetland a belly full of lead and DEP issues an administrative order into the wetland, I would think we would get a copy of the ACO. That's why I went to the outreach coordinator and said, hey, what's up?
Okay, so we'll hear from them, hopefully on by the 4th. Come up with an answer to that. And Unitil, you just sent out an email this morning about
Yes.
a small on-site change?
Actually, the looks, I don't know if you had a chance to look at it. It
I
looked to
did
me
not.
like the change was not in the buffer zone. Essentially, what they're doing is, you recall we had the Petro plug.
Yes. Yeah.
The manufacturer basically told the engineer, you had the pole storage and you had the
Transformers.
transformer storage, and all the runoff was gone from one to the other. They were combined. So what they're doing now is they've changed the piping and separated it, so the pole runoff and the transformer runoff are now separate, because the manufacturer recommended one plug per each. So instead of having one plug, you have two. That's really all it was.
Yeah, so basically what they did is they have the two tight tanks that we had them put a tight tank in. So if the plug ever swelled, the water would go into the tank and the alarm would go off. So the recommendation was that each storage area should have its own tight tank. So they have a separate line somewhere after the plugs, they join together and run off into the same spot that they were set to run off before. So there's no additional storm water.
Right.
It's just an added layer of protection. So there's
And
a plug
full
and a
reach.
float tight tank with an alarm on it for each area.
Right, so before each tank, you have a plug.
Right. After each tank, there's a plug.
After
Because then the
each tank.
plug swells and the water gets shunted off into the tight tank.
Right.
Right.
If it was before, then the water would just back up. So that looks like that's all they did. You had a question, Ken?
Yeah, I had another possible enforcement that I'd like Matt to take a look at.
Okay.
I'm not sure the address, but it's a new construction house on Northfield Road in the dip between Gilker Street and Holman.
No, that's already been permitted.
I understand that, but I'm questioning whether the work that's being done there is permitted work. I think you should take a look at it, because it looked like, I think there's riverfront area there, and it looks like,
Yes,
There is-
that area over there, I actually went out with the builder and tape measured. For some reason...
recently?
Recently.
Okay.
For some reason, what had happened on that determination was that the commission had declared it as an intermittent stream.
Okay,
So he's locked in on an intermittent stream ruling.
okay.
He's actually started that area where you're referring, because I know where you're referring to, he started that like a year ago.
Well, it looked like there was more stuff on the other side of the driveway closer to the wetland that had been done.
Yep.
And
I
they
mean,
were
I'll go
also-
out and double check the plans.
Okay. Because they were also installing a drain this past weekend that looked like it was going to discharge towards the wetland.
Okay, I don't recall a drain on the plan, so if they started that, I'll double check.
And there was excavation and drainage pipe there, so it'd be worth taking a look at.
Absolutely.
That is an intermittent stream.
Huh?
That is an intermittent stream.
We've had other files
I-
that declared it perennial.
I
so-
don't think that's intermittent. I think I'm sure it's on the,
All I can tell you is I ride my bike through there on a weekly basis, farther downstream, and it's dry for much of the year.
Okay, well, you'll take a look at it, Matt? Okay, when did we approve that?
It's almost 3 years ago now.
Okay.
yeah, I mean, the work there has been very, very slow.
Yeah. So they're coming up on needing to file for a extension?
Yeah, unless his work, if he put his work in the buffer zone, yeah. Because the remainder of the work, other than the wall, was out of the buffer zone.
Okay. All right, moving forward then, any new business? And old business, we have new member recruits. You guys want to come forward and sit up and introduce yourselves?
Sure.
Okay.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Katie Childs. Me and my fiance just bought a house over on Kimball Street, and we moved in July. So I'm a fairly new resident to the town. I graduated from college in 2013 from UNH with a degree in environmental conservation. Have not been able to find a job in the field yet, but I have been working in Hudson as an assistant manager at a deli. For the past year, pretty much, I was on Hudson's Conservation Commission. I only resigned because I moved. Couldn't stay on. But I learned a lot about the wetlands protection, and I'd like to continue learning more and learn more about the town of Lunenburg. So I'm a new resident, so.
Great.
Yeah.
And you're available Wednesday nights? We
Yep.
meet the first and third Wednesdays.
Perfect.
And
Yeah.
we have our site walks the Saturday prior.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Perfect. And next, Tracy.
I'm Tracey Thibodeau. I have lived in Lunenburg since 1976, so it's been a long time. I have a degree in environmental geology or biology with geology concentration. Actually, I haven't used it in a while. I used to be in the environmental field. My motives are probably a little bit different than just wetland enforcement. I would like to see, well, since I've been here for a long time, I am greatly concerned by the rapidly evaporating Lunenburg. When I moved here, there were 6,000 people. There are now 14,000 people-ish, thereabouts. I kind of wanted to see what you guys are about and what it is that you guys do on a day-in, day-out basis. And Matt, I think we've met a long time ago, I believe.
Oh, yes.
Long, long ago. And that's it, so.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, enforcement's not all that we do. Sometimes it's the most visible part of our job, but we really are trying now. The Conservation Commission oversees about 2,000 acres of land in Lunenburg. We are starting now to get forest management plans.
Yep.
We got 5 done on our 5 largest properties, and it went through and listed some things that we could start to do to better manage properties, which we'll be doing a management cut on our first property in November, or starting between November and March. So we're definitely trying to work more with the properties and get them a little bit better shape and a little more visible so people can get out and enjoy them a little more. Plus, we do garnish a little bit of income from the management cuts so that we can do a little bit more maintenance, or possibly purchasing property, increasing the open space stock that we have in town. We do have a pretty good amount of land that is owned by the town. So, yeah, so you would be interested.
I'm working on it.
Thank you.
I have to see if I can live up to the commitment, you know, I still have kids in school, so.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I mean, generally, it's the first and third Wednesdays, and it's about 3 hours when we do that, twice a month, and then Saturday mornings, prior to the hearing, we go out for a 2 or 3 hour walk to check out the different properties. And then we have members that do work parties and things on different properties that we have. I know Bob was just commenting about being out on the Lane property, doing some trail work out there, so. All right, yes, sir.
Hi. So my name is Dave Scarpini. I kind of just randomly fell into this, apparently. I'm a wildlife biologist with Massachusetts Fisheries and Wildlife. I've been there for a little over 10 years now. I just moved to Lunenburg about 2 months ago. And I moved from Hudson, interestingly. And, you know, we moved out here, I think, because we were looking for a place that had more open space, you know, more conservation land. Hudson's a very built-out city or town in Massachusetts. And so it was very appealing to come to a town like this. I had just emailed Matt randomly because I heard through the grapevine through our office that you guys were going to be involved in some forest management, and so I just wanted to throw, you know, my abilities out there just from a volunteer basis. So I do a lot of work with habitat management, forest management for the division. I'm one of our project leaders in terms of game management, so deer, bear, turkey, hunting regulations, dealing with nuisance conflicts with wildlife, a whole bunch of other stuff that kind of beyond that. Prior to that, so I have a degree in wildlife ecology from the University of Maine, a master's degree in wildlife management from the University of New Hampshire. I had experience with a lot of wetland delineation work. The first couple of jobs I had out of college, working in the private sector, so I've kind of seen that side of things. Like I said, I've worked for the state now for 10 years, so I kind of see our side of things. I've been in front of many of Conservation Commission in the capacity of my work, again, always kind of associated with forest management, habitat management, working, within town bylaws or DEP or state, regulations relative to work within buffer zones or in wetlands or whatever it might be. So yeah, it's something I'm interested in. I'd like to contribute whatever I can to the town. If it's not on the commission, just happy to volunteer some technical assistance or whatever I can for.
Or even as an associate member, because now with some of the management that we're planning, of course, habitat management's one of the big ones that we're trying to work on with the areas. And there's some pretty good sized parcels, 200 and 300 acres. The one we're doing now is 252 acres.
Yep. Yeah, so when I moved to Lunenburg, another person in our office tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, they're doing some forest management in Lunenburg. And I said, oh, cool, I'll have to go check that out when they start. And then he told me about the turtles, and I kind of
it's an ACEC, so.
So I kind of laughed, and that was one of the things that I'm always dealing with forest management.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we go through the same process that the towns do, that any private landowner does in terms of habitat management. We file our plans with natural heritage and endangered species, or with DCR if it's, well, we usually do both simultaneously just to kind of stay out of harm's way.
Yep.
But yeah, we're held to the same standards that everybody else is, and so again, have a fair bit of experience sitting in meetings like this on this side of the table. So yeah, that's it.
That would be great, Dave. Okay, and I know Matt and you were emailing back and forth a little bit about conflict.
Yeah, so for like 8 weeks in the fall and potentially in the spring, I coach kids soccer, so Saturdays are a little tricky for a few weeks of the year, but otherwise. I'm pretty flexible. At this point, I don't have any tremendous commitments outside of that.
All right.
Yep.
Super. And I mean, you can do your sidewalk by yourself too, or Matt works in the office 4 days a week up here, and sometimes he's going out on other walks.
Being with the state, I'm pretty flexible too, so I work a lot of weird hours, so night meetings.
So you're out of the air office?
No, I'm out of Westboro.
Okay. That was my question, where you were out of.
Down towards Worcester. And when I moved here, I'm not sure I realized how close our air office was to here.
Not far at all.
So I've been kind of like scheming for that transition maybe. It's like such a sweet, smooth drive down 280 compared to the
10 minutes down 280 with no traffic.
convoluted route I take to get to Westboro from here. There's no real good way to get there from
Route
here.
9.
Yeah, so
no fun.
But anyway, so that's
All
it.
right.
And like I said, happy to help in any way that's agreeable to you all.
Okay. Well, to become a formal member of the commission, you're appointed by the Board of Selectmen. So they do a quick interview. So if you are interested, I can just forward your names off to the selectmen, and they would invite you to come up to one of their meetings and just get to know you a little bit.
They also make you walk a high wire across the...
Have you filled out a talent bank form? Because that's the first step. But there's a talent bank form that you can get. I don't know if
I think it's
available.
online.
I think it's online.
It is online.
Actually, I believe
Katie's
you
looking
guys
kind of.
have.
At the fair.
At the
Okay.
fair.
Oh, there you go.
I have one for you.
Yeah. So that's what triggers the selectmen to
Could have sworn I had one for you. I'll have to double check it.
Yeah, you just sent me your name, you didn't send me. All right, well, Matt will just email out a talent bank form, Dave and Tracy, and basically it's just your name, address, phone number, and what area of town you're interested in, or what board or commission.
Mr. Chairman, I just have to say I'm blown away by the qualifications of all three people.
Yeah, definitely.
Really impressive from having no one to...
Having three really qualified.
And I would also just suggest that either yourself or Matt send a message along to the selectmen to sort of move the process along.
Yes. Yeah, we would formally submit the names, and unfortunately, I would have a hard time trying to select one. I mean, you're all qualified in different areas of something that we're missing, so.
Mr. Selectman, I'd like to point.
Even if you're not appointed as a formal member, you can still be an associate member and participate in the hearings and the meetings and the projects and continue to help and serve. And the more bodies we have and the more energy we have, the more projects we can do that aren't regulatory.
I attended meetings for about 3 months before I was appointed, so.
We didn't scare them away.
So, I was gonna say,
I think you can see that this board is made up of a very diverse group of, we all have our different talents. What one doesn't catch, the other one does.
Yeah, I too am impressed and thankful for having such talent come forward, even, in town. That's great. I feel a little inadequate now, but could you elaborate just a little on the associate position? What they can do and can't do? I mean, can they ever sit in, if we don't have a quorum or anything, or no?
No, they cannot, because the commission is set up by general law, and the selectmen point, we can't have standby members like the zoning board of appeals can.
Okay.
So we can only have up to 7 voting members. So
But
we can't have a stand-in or an alternate.
But they could participate in...
They could certainly participate in any discussions, anything that we do other than a formal voting at a hearing.
At the same level as a member?
Yes.
So once a hearing's closed, they could still participate in the deliberation?
Yes, they just can't vote.
Just can't vote.
I don't know, we'd have to check on that. Technically, I don't think they can participate in the deliberation after the public comment is closed, but I don't, Matt, we'll have to check.
I know I never did as an associate
I don't
member.
think you can, the way it's set up. But they certainly can throughout any part of it as a citizen or as an associate member.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'll double check that, but I thought they could. I've seen it before.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Awesome. Thank you very much, guys, that's great.
Have a great night, gentlemen.
You too.
Thank you.
Good night.
Any certificate of compliances?
No.
Okay. I continue to drive by 120 Northfield Road and get the feeling that that is done. Have you heard anything from them or gone out at all? I did walk it once or twice during construction. And
No, I
they
haven't heard anything from them.
never got into the 50-foot. Their erosion protection was in place.
What was 120 Northfield?
120 West Street.
Oh, 120 West
There
Street.
was a swamp in the back, and we had the
the one that went to
formal
DEP for,
complaint.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and there was, I thought they did a great job out in the back there. They
Yeah.
never crossed that line at all. So.
Okay.
And it's all grass now. The house is landscaped. I think there's somebody living in it. So we may want to just look into that.
He was smart during construction and did everything from the front and brought it out.
Minutes. In looking through the minutes, have we already approved August 2nd?
I'll have to check. I thought we did.
I thought we only approved. It just seems odd because we have July 5th, 19th, but not August 2nd. At this point, has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from July 5th?
Yes.
Yep.
And any discussion on the minutes from July 5th?
Ready to approve them.
All right, I'll accept the motion to approve the minutes from July 5th as amended.
So moved?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
July 19th. Any comments?
No, we'll look at those.
Accept a motion to approve, accept a motion for approval as amended for the July 19th minutes.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
August 16th. Any discussion? I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes of August 16th as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. August 30th.
So moved?
I'll accept a motion to approve the August 30th minutes as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
September 6th. Carl? September 6th?
Yep.
All
good.
right. I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes of September 6th as amended.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so you're just going to look up August 2nd, Matt? Mm-hmm. Okay. Committee report, stormwater.
Shucks.
I will say Adam just today
Sent out the NOI.
sent out
Yeah,
draft notice of intent, so. And I was surprised to see that Hickory Hills was a class 4 impaired lake.
Oh, really?
That's both
Is that-
Whalen
that
and
change?
Hickory Hills on a notice of intent.
Wow,
And Whalen surprised me too.
yeah.
I believe that listed as a class 4.
Catching up to Lake Shirley.
Yep. And it also listed that I think Hickory Hills loses its cold water fisheries label after Hickory Hills.
Mulpus, you mean?
Mulpus, what did I say?
Yeah.
You said Hickory Hills.
Yeah, Mulpus after, I thought I had just read that in the comments, I have to read it again, I was just perusing it. It was a little print. But yeah, so just if you get a chance to review, it looked like a whole lot of check boxes, but it gave a good description of the different areas and what commissions and boards were in charge of what portions of it moving forward. I know a lot of work went into that, so we applaud them. Status of inspections, 101 Pleasant. Matt went out with Army Corps of Engineers and met the owner on site. How'd that go, Matt?
The Army Corps was trying to get a commitment as to when they were going to start pulling the fill back. And what we found out was the owner has intentions of actually taking the roadway, trying to develop a subdivision and pushing the road through to 2A. Adam sent him a whole bunch of standards under stormwater that he's going to have to meet. It looks like he may have to do 5-acre lots if he wants to do anything out there.
Yeah, I'd heard he secured another piece of property that gives him access to 2A. That was what I'd heard.
Okay. And what did Army Corps' decision on crossing over the gas pipeline in the right-of-way?
Essentially, if he wants to keep it, he's going to have to file and go to Kinder Morgan standards. Kinder Morgan would basically hold his feet to the fire according to what Kinder Morgan was saying on site. I brought up the issue of the fact that there's floodplain on site. You can't just leave the fill there, we have to compensate for the floodplain. And his response was, oh, I'll just have my engineer do a letter of map change and FEMA will just rubber stamp it. And she kind of looked at me and looked at him and essentially said, well, that's all well and good, but if FEMA says it's a floodplain, you have to remediate it and Army Corps can't permit it.
So this is the crossing over the pipeline, or this is a crossing over the brook?
pipeline.
Really? That's a
floodplain.
That's a floodplain way out there? Okay.
So one of the first things I checked for out in that area when he started filling was to see how much floodplain, because I knew there was floodplain out there.
Yeah.
And right where he crosses, right where the cart path is, for the right-of-way,
Yeah.
there's a floodplain that sneaks up and goes around back into the BVW, and it touches half that roadway. It peaks right there in half that area that he filled. So he's got to either mitigate that and get out of the floodplain, or Army Corps isn't going to look at a permit for him. So what she's trying now is to get a time clock out of him as to when he's going to move.
Why does he need a permit from Army Corps of Engineers?
Because he's filling in wetlands.
Okay.
And it's over a certain amount.
Okay.
And it's even the riverfront alteration.
Okay.
Because it's over a certain amount of square footage.
Okay.
That he's discharged into, it would require the Army Corps permit.
Okay.
Do you know where he's got access to Route 2A now? Or where you heard?
Anecdotally, it was a rumor that I heard it was the piece of property next to the bootleggers
Okay, thanks.
on the,
Where the foundation has always been?
yep,
Really?
that was the rumor.
So he's gonna cross Pearl Brook?
I don't know.
Okay, so here's a question where he has changed his intentions to remove the roadway under the permit that he currently holds. Does that void his permit that he has with us?
It doesn't void the permit. He could amend the permit. He could withdraw the permit and file a new notice of intent. It would be up to my take on it is that something to the scale that he's talking about, I don't think would be considered for an amendment. I would require him to file a new NOI and then get a release off the area that he's already worked on.
Okay. Interesting. And did they give him any timeline from Army Corps?
No, she's trying to get a timeline from him.
Okay.
So I think if he doesn't submit one, she's going to give him one.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, do we have any update on where we are with collecting the fine?
The attorney has all of the documentation, the order of conditions, the fines, the demand letter, and a copy of every single ticket that I issued, along with a summary of what the amount due is. Apparently, town council is going after it.
Okay, but we now have confirmed through our town clerk that the Attorney General has approved all of our town meeting votes. So we now have the ability to cancel or to remove, whatever the word is, the permit under that statute, the mass.
At this point, I don't know if I'd want to cancel the permit. I want to see if he actually would apply for a new one for an actual subdivision, because the town shouldn't even have to hear it.
But what sounds like that we got town council doing something that's taking time and energy and ultimately cost, when we have a tool at our disposal that we can remove the permit, which I suspect will make him pay the fine, and then, business goes on as usual. Why would we pursue through legal action in courts when we can simply pull the permit and force his hand to pay the fine?
Well, and I don't think removing his permit is going to take away his need to pay the fine.
No, what it'll do is, if he wants to get the permit, to make that go away, then he pays the fine.
One is independent from the other, I think, Matt. So.
What do you mean by one's independent?
Well, Matt's concern was we don't want to cancel the order of conditions because we're going after him for the fines.
Oh.
I would think it would just put more pressure on him.
Mr. Chairman, isn't this outside of our sphere of influence?
In what way?
Isn't this in the hands of town council now?
Well, the collection of the fines are in town council, but we have the right to revoke his order of conditions because his fines are over 60 days due.
And I asked town council at the last office hour this specific question.
Yep.
And, I said, I wanted to clarify because, can we still use that, Modernization Act once we've started the other process? And he said, absolutely you can.
Did you ask him about this specific case? Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
he said as
Now,
of...
at that time, neither one of us knew that the Attorney General had approved it.
Okay, so it's prior to our, so there still may be a window that 60 days from it being approved, or...
Oh, no. All I'm saying is, I met with him in the morning.
Yep, and it was approved in the afternoon.
And it was approved in the afternoon, or at least clerk knew it in the afternoon. So when I was talking to him, and I just asked him, when this is done, is there anything that stops us from using that tool since we started down the path with using the other regulation? And he said, no, you can still...
So
revoke
Matt and
the
I
permit.
will work and communicate with Adam to see if that is within our realm.
Yeah.
And if it is, we will put it on for an administrative hearing for the next meeting.
Great.
And we can discuss it. Then at that point, we can choose to move forward with revoking your conditions if we so desire.
I apologize for my previous remark. I wasn't following.
No problem. Status of inspections, 155 Reservoir.
That actually was going pretty good until just recently. We have a condition where they're supposed to exit back and forth on gravel aprons. I caught a tree company going out just a couple days ago in the early morning the big trucks going right off on the muddy part of the road, right out into the street. Stopped, talked to the construction super, and had them go out and do street sweepings to get rid of the tracks. They've put a telephone pole right in front of the area that they were exiting off and on so that barrier won't happen again.
Okay.
Adam has issued his own enforcement letter requiring them to put erosion protection along street side everywhere that because these were planning board conditions on the front parts. Everywhere there is no access along the side of the berms, and that they are to upgrade the rock they're using to a larger, because they're using the smaller trap rock.
Okay. And as far as reviewing the riverfront, the new calculations that we had, how are we doing on that?
I'm waiting for Brian Marchetti to get the plotting data from Whitman and Bingham. Once he gets the plotting data, he's going to send it over to Rosemary Chalk for her review, to give us a scope for a 53G review.
Okay.
She would then go out and give us a price and then go out and do her own shots to verify the other shots.
Okay, everybody was here, we talked about that. Okay, reviewing the work.
That's great.
Okay, so you're working on that with
Brian.
Who's the engineer, McCarty?
Yeah.
Associates, okay. All right, so you're working on that, 667, 675 reservoir?
667 is basically almost done, and we just granted the amendment tonight. 675, the plantings are holding up. I went out and looked at them. They're still holding up. They had, I think, one that died.
All right, and what was he talking about, the, all the hydroseed died? That David had said that,
I didn't,
Paul
maybe
had gone
going up
out.
the driveway because I didn't see anything growing, but.
yeah, I mean, it's been wet enough, I can't imagine anything, any hydroseeded area not
I mean, there's
taking.
no erosion issues going on, so, I mean, if he has to reapply hydroseed, he has to reapply it.
Okay. 93 Whalen.
That is an investigation that I'm working on with Adam and the building inspector on a commercial piece of property that is surrounded by wetlands. I haven't found anything on our part yet as a violation, but I'm waiting to get it. I'm going inside the building tomorrow. The first thing I want to check for is to make sure there are no floor drains that exit out.
Okay. 811 Chase.
811 Chase, I started getting a little nervous about that because that's the two lots that Danny Gardner was working on, and all of a sudden everything stopped. It's getting to the point where there's even weed growth growing in the driveways that he had graded in. I found out from him last week that he has since sold those two lots to his quote-unquote partner. I asked him for the information. I haven't gotten the information as to who the new landowner is, but apparently the new landowner is aware of the order of conditions.
Okay. So they'll update the information with the new
just
landowner?
gonna have to keep chasing it, yeah.
Okay. 41 Beals?
41 Beals is a single-family home construction that we permitted a few months ago. It's right on the corner, Beals
Chase
and
Road, Bay
Chase
Beals.
Road.
Yep.
And I had just noticed that he did the hay bales, put up the sign, or the wattles, put up the sign, started doing the clearing, cut the trees down, did the land clearing. Everything looks fine. There's no breaches, erosion protection's in fine. But all of a sudden it stopped. Like it's been inactive for like 2.5 weeks.
Okay.
And the excavator that was on there disappeared. So I called the owner and I asked him what was going on. And he basically told me that he was just finishing up on another site, and within the next week or two, he's going to be back with the excavator, cleaning out the remainder of the detritus from the clearing of the trees and smooth grading it out.
Okay. Yeah, because we drove by there for one of the sidewalks, it looked good.
No, it still looks fine. I was just curious as to why he stopped. I see them going full bore, and then all of a sudden, bang, and it's 2 weeks and nothing.
Oh, you just sent that, okay. Forest cutting plan progress.
There's no record of any sale on the Worcester North Registry of Deeds at 811 Chase Road,
Okay.
for what it's worth.
There's no violation at 811 Chase Road?
No, there's no
Okay.
violation. But if he just sold it, it may not necessarily make it on the deed registry of deeds right away.
I mean,
It appears the day of the closing.
okay, but at this point, there's no violation, so he is still the owner of record, as far as we know.
Just for what it's worth.
Yep. Forest cutting plan, we had gotten a plan back from Natural Heritage asking for an amendment to the forest cutting plan, Matt?
Yeah, they had asked us to better outline the parking area on the maps on the forest cutting plan. So they just wanted it like a narrative. So Gary did that. When he did that, he submitted it to me right away. I had Heather sign the revised copy, sent it off to Mike Downey with the extra copy to send to Natural Heritage so they could, because he's the one that forwards it. I had them do a pre-consult just to see what they thought. They actually were very complimentary on the remainder of the cutting plan.
Okay. And we just need to review quickly the bid specs. I'm just going to read off the conditions quickly. The seller, without penalty to the purchaser, may suspend removal operations if the forester determines unreasonable damages to access roads, skid trails, logging roads is resulting from use of these roads during periods of excessive ground wetness. Only marked trees shall be cut and removed. Merchantable trees not otherwise designated, if necessarily destroyed, shall be paid for at the rate of 3 times the agreed contract price. And these are things that Gary, as our agent, will be out there on site at least weekly, reviewing the project. All marked timber shall be cut and removed, but no re-entry shall be permitted. When operating in any one area, all marked timber shall be removed. All trees shall be utilized in their tops to the lowest possible diameter for commercial saleable materials. Stumps shall be cut no higher than the top of the root swell, except in case of butt rot or iron in the wood, and shall be cut as to leave the forester's paint marks plainly visible on stumps. In the case of butt rot or iron in the wood, the affected portion shall be cut and left in the woods at the discretion of the forester. We saw where he had marked all of the stumps, the heights. Purchaser shall remove all trees which are broken, damaged, uprooted, or leaning as a result of the purchaser's activities in the building of roads or the cutting of marked timber / disposal shall be in strict compliance with the state of Massachusetts law. Operator reserves the right to restrict the size and type of skidding equipment and the manner in which it is operated if the forester determines that unreasonable damage is being caused by either. Care must be exercised with fire at all times when in the woods. All buildings erected or used by the purchaser during the operation must be removed, and all lunching and service areas must be cleaned up within the time limit of the agreement. The courses of all roads and wood landings shall be approved by the forester or the seller. Any new road constructed and any existing road used for removal shall be left in prior repair to the satisfaction of the forester at the completion of logging. Purchaser will be required to maintain public liability insurance satisfactory to the agent of the seller, as well as workers' compensation insurance, and will be required to file certificates with the New England Forestry Consultants, Inc. Purchaser may subcontract portions of the logging operation only with the approval of the forester, but not assign the responsibilities acquired hereby to a third party without prior written consent of the seller. Subcontractor will be required to maintain general liability insurance and workers' compensation insurance. Purchaser agrees to abide by all applicable local, state, and federal laws, including obtaining all necessary operational and business permits, including highway department permits. All timber harvesting operations must be completed by March 31st, 2018. Harvesting is restricted to a time frame of November 1st to March 31st due to natural heritage requirements. Shipping is required on this lot. Clearing of a 5 to 8 car parking lot at the property entrance will be required as part of the timber sale. Are there any other items that we wanted done? Okay. And then the rest of it's just the bid procedure, which the purchasing agent, which is the town manager, will review with Adam. And all of the numbers from the bid, from the forest cutting plan, which we've already approved. So the only addition he did to the forest cutting plan was he outlined the parking lot and put 30 by 60. So at this point, I'll accept a motion to approve the timber sale prospectus.
So moved.
Second. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All right, so we can move that forward to Adam in the morning. The forest cutting plan amended. I'll accept a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So the forest cutting plan is approved. And I have thumbed through, I believe Matt had emailed this out, the agreement between the town, Conservation Commission, and the forester, the land clearer, which I did not see any direct comments on that we would change. I think it's all more legal.
Standard contract language.
This was mailed out when?
I think September 5th. Did you put it to everybody or just me, Matt?
Let me look at September 5th.
I don't remember it. It's not to say I didn't get it, but I don't remember.
Yeah. And there's that one, and then the other purchasing contract is on the cloud.
Yeah, I mean, that's stuff that the purchasing agent is looking at
Yeah.
anyway, right?
Yeah, I think Adam was concerned to make sure that we were happy with the scope of work and the forest cutting plan.
Yeah.
So
Yep,
they can now move forward with the purchasing agent stuff.
go for it.
Get that updated.
Cool.
Forest cutting plan, 53G, you just brought us up to speed on that for 155 Reservoir. And at this point, it looks like our requests for the solar project are going through the planning board and using their agent, so we don't need to set up a separate account at this stage. We'll have to watch and see for the monitoring, exactly how that's handled, if that's handled through the planning board as well. So we can continue working on with that, so. All right, that is all we have on our agenda.
I just, permits from the last one
Signatures?
signed.
Okay. Do we have any public comment from the public? Oh, sorry about that.
Do we have any comment from the public?
You're the
You
only one
stayed
left.
through the whole thing, huh?
There is a public here, everybody.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a final comment. If you recall, I put up no ATV signs on the Lane property last year.
Yep.
And when I was out there today, there's evidence that someone's bringing an ATV in from the Gallagher side, and they attempted to take the sign down, but I put them up kind of high so they couldn't get it down.
Is there adequate evidence to inform the Lunenburg Police to have them investigate the origin of the ATV?
Eventually, I'll be out there the same time as they are, and I'll take a picture.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
At which point I would probably just forward it to the Lunenburg Police. Yes, Mr. Jones.
Along those lines, you know, it kind of ties in with what I was actually thinking about as far as the donation from Keating's. The police department has been trying for several years to get a new ATV. The ATV that the police uses now is shared with the fire department, and it's sort of inadequate for patrolling any of our conservation lands. And I think that would be, as far as I'm concerned, a great use for that money from Keating's would be to put towards an ATV for the police to actually get out and be able to enforce on some of our properties. So it's just something to think about, you know, as we go forward.
Okay. Actually, I was gonna suggest perhaps at our next meeting on the 4th, we put a little time aside to come up with a few projects. Myself, I don't know if helping the police purchase an ATV to patrol the town is gonna fall under their, what was it called, a SEP?
SEP, Supplemental Environmental Plan.
Do they need, as far as they need a plan for that, what that money is going to do?
No, but I think DEP kind of has an idea of where it should go. So I don't, and again, I don't know exactly what strings are attached to it, but I do agree with you. If not through that funding, perhaps we can help through other fundings. But
I just know that right now their resources are very limited as far as what they can go out and patrol on conservation land.
Okay. I did also hear that the Lions Club had set up some grants with some of their excess funds, so that might be worth looking into as well. But yeah, definitely to help them get out and do some patrolling, because
I was
they
going to say,
definitely
would
are
that be an
detrimental to the
eligible
area.
expense through some of the revenue we generate?
Could be, when it's there, we can
That's a
ask.
question.
Yeah. 'Cause I mean,
I'll get some firmer numbers from them as far as what they were looking for.
okay. But we should come up with some, I mean, I had come up with a couple ideas, like we're definitely gonna need some signage and gating at Small Town Forest, once the roadway's done and the projects are done. We do have a bunch of potential vernal pools in town that do need review and certification. Once they're certified under our bylaw, those become areas of protection. So we treat it just like we would a standard wetland.
Yeah, I think getting it on the agenda, for a discussion.
Yeah, and try to come up with a few ideas so we have something. We did have Mr. King donate some signs possibly, which would certainly help too.
Yeah, that was the comment I was going to make for this discussion was, and I don't know if through that vehicle or some other vehicle, if we could get some signs for not dumping on conservation land. I know a couple of spots that could use some signs.
And maybe we'll broaden
Cleaning
it
them
to just some in general capital things that we want to try and get. That we can certainly use.
Yeah, but I mean, I think signs are not that expensive. I mean, we should have enough, we should have some money somewhere. That we can
I think you can make an 18 by 24 metal bag sign for about $30. I think I get them at the garden center for about that, so.
Yeah, right. So I guess I'm hoping we could, maybe move it outside of this other funding thing and just find another way to, for dumping, maybe it's a half dozen signs or something. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
something we should have, so when we notice it, we do have that. Speaking of that, it brought up the dumping in Hollis Road. Do they do their annual walk, the North County Land Trust?
I haven't heard from them, no.
Okay, because this is about the time of year they usually do it and present it to us. In that vein, don't we hold the conservation restriction on Northfield Road for the property they purchased?
Yes.
Do we have to do the review for that?
I don't know of anything in the documents that would require it, but it probably wouldn't be a bad idea.
I thought annual we had to review the conservation restriction. That was one of the requirements of us holding the restriction.
Review the use of the property to make sure that they're not.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, as you all remember, I don't remember the name of the property, but it was out across from Violet's. There was a piece of property and it abutted the back end of the old lane property that Massey purchased.
It's actually right at Holman Street, isn't it?
I thought it was a couple properties up.
I think it's, I thought it was right at that intersection at Holman Street, but
the North County Land Trust, I believe, purchased the property from the owners and asked us to hold the conservation restriction. So in that, we have to review annually their use of the property, make sure that they're not exceeding the conservation restriction. And they hold the conservation restriction for our property on Hollis Road. And that's where they found the dumping, when the neighbor was driving over with his grass clippings and dumping them on our property and some tires in the back and things like that, so it is time for reviewing those. And other than that, I can't think of anything else. Any other questions or comments from the commission?
just a real quick update on the pollinator habitat on Hollis Road. The plantings that we did this year all took really well. We were really lucky to have a year that we got plenty of rain. We're moving forward with mowing that at some point. We're trying to figure out how we're going to mark off where the plantings were so they don't get mowed. But that's all in the works right now. But it is, I think as far as from our perspective, it was a successful year. Somebody was out there taking senior pictures the other day, and there's been quite a bit of activity. So it's been a good project so far, and I'd like to see that, continue.
To that end, do you have access, or do the pollinator people have access to any information that perhaps we could write into the order of conditions for the solar fields on a certain type of mix to put in different areas to help create some pollinator habitats out in that meadow where it's going to be a 32-acre meadow at this point.
So. Yeah, I think that, working with Matt, we can probably get some information, but I think that's a great idea.
Yep, yeah. I mean, they don't, not to do the whole area,
Right.
but to have certain areas
Yeah.
here and there to provide.
Especially if they're gonna, if they're bringing everything down to bare soil. I mean, the difficulty we ran into with Hollis Road was we
Yes.
didn't bring it down to bare soil, and
Yep.
getting some of those things, especially from seed, was very difficult.
Yep.
But if they're gonna bring it down to bare soil,
Well, they will in where they're pulling stumps.
Right.
Where they're
Yeah.
pulling stumps, if they have some stumped areas, some that may be a little
Yeah.
bit more
Yeah.
dense, then they can throw that mix in the hydroseeder.
Yeah.
And put that
I think that's a
mix
great
in-
idea.
in just certain parts, little areas, pockets here and there.
Sure.
I wish I'd thought of that. That's a great idea, Richard.
And the other one would be, and they might not have this, is on the outside of the fence where they're removing the trees, there's still no understory.
Right.
So to perhaps get a wildlife mix that the deer and some of the smaller animals that are herbivores eat,
Yeah.
might be something to try to come up with some information and work into the order
Sure.
conditions as well. So try to create as much habitat out there as we can. I mean, you're not gonna get much animal habitat inside the fence. So we can make that for birds and insects and
Yeah,
some
outside for
habitat
wildlife.
area
yeah.
outside for the larger creatures.
I think that's
So,
great.
Outstanding. So that's something to think about when they come back on the 4th, too, to try to bring up to them. And try to make the best of a 32-acre clearing. So, all right, any questions from the public?
Still not.
By the way, I just to answer the Daniel Gardner question on 811 Chase Road, I just figured out why it doesn't show up in the registry of deeds. He said he sold it to his partner, but I just found a trust for all the property on 811 Chase Road. That's between him and a fellow by the name of Alan Weiner. And apparently it's a trust, but Alan Weiner actually controls the deeds. Certificate of trust. So this fellow must just be taking it over. So they're gonna have to do another trust certificate, which they probably haven't done yet. But if you look on the registry's website, you'll find...
So the trust still owns the properties, but the trustee and beneficiaries of the trust will change. So he
He's
will
gonna have to.
So that's what will probably happen, which I don't think you ever see.
No, that's invisible.
What's that?
That's invisible
Right.
to the registry, yeah.
Yes, the beneficiaries are. So that could all change in the background, but the owner stays the same, the trust itself, so. All right, I will accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.